Hello, and thank you for joining us. The Trump administration says it will not rest until all Americans in the Middle East who wish to return are back in the U.S. safely. The rush to evacuate Americans comes as Israel launched more strikes in Tehran today. We're seeing more images showing the extensive damage done to some of Iran's military assets, including the sinking of its warships. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth today laid out the U.S.'s goals.
The mission is laser focused. Obliterate Iran's missiles and drones and facilities that produce them, annihilate its navy and critical security infrastructure, and sever their pathway to nuclear weapons. Iran will never possess a nuclear bomb, not on our watch, not ever.
But the continued strikes are not stopping Iran's apparent retaliation. An Iranian ballistic missile was shot down over Turkish airspace today, though it's unclear if the country was the intended target. President Trump today again said the timing of the war was to stop Iran's nuclear capabilities. Israeli officials have also said intelligence indicated the country was 2 weeks away from enriching weapons-grade uranium.
If we didn't hit within 2 weeks, they would have had a nuclear weapon. If we didn't do the B-2 attack a number of months ago, they would have a nuclear weapon. And when crazy people have nuclear weapons, bad things happen. So we're in very good shape now. I want to let you know that, and we will continue forward.
CBS News chief correspondent Matt Gutman is in Tel Aviv, Israel, where some Americans are trying to find ways to get back to the U.S. as intense military combat continues in the region.
Hey, I just want to give you a sense of what we've been seeing just from standing right here. Last night, we saw Tomahawk missiles fired from U.S. warships out in the Mediterranean go over our head nearly simultaneously, an Iranian missile coming in. Hours ago, we had missiles coming in or rockets coming in from Lebanon at the exact same time as an Iranian missile was coming in. There are U.S. refueling tankers that are flying overhead, Israeli warplanes flying towards Iran. From the other side of the Gulf, there are also U.S. warplanes by the many dozens flying. There are drones crisscrossing the Middle East right now. That is how busy and congested this airspace is in terms of this war, which continues to expand. Israel moving into southern Lebanon because of those rockets that we saw. We understand that Israel's response to Hezbollah, the Iranian proxy, is going to be more intense. Right now, you might be hearing in a few more seconds another refueling tanker flying over my head. All of this to say, very busy airspace, and it's one of the reasons that the U.S. has had a hard time, or that about nearly 1 million Americans have a hard time getting out of this region, caught in this conflict region. Now, so far, the State Department hasn't been very helpful. They have been telling people, we can't offer you direct help. That is starting to change. General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, has said that they might get people on C-17, very big planes, out of the region on military planes. Secretary of State Rubio has said that they're going to start chartering planes as well. But getting those planes here and then getting them out is going to take coordination and deconfliction because the skies are so very dense with warplanes, not commercial planes. So it might be more of a trickle than a steady stream, as I think many Americans would want. Just want to give you an example of one of the people I've spoken to, a woman who lived not far from here in Tel Aviv, or didn't live, was visiting family, and she had to take a train to a bus, stay overnight near the Egyptian border, cross the Egyptian border, fly from Taba, a town in Egypt, to Athens, then to Munich, then to Chicago to be with her 2-year-old son. And she's 23 weeks pregnant. So many people across the region trying to get out, very frustrated right now. Again, there is a little bit more movement on that, that as this war continues to expand with no let-up in sight. Back to you.
Matt Gutman, thank you. CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata joins me now from Tel Aviv. What have you been hearing and seeing throughout the day?
Yeah, Lindsay, let me just amplify and repeat what Matt had to say there, because we've seen a lot of the same things, especially when it comes to those incoming missiles that were intercepted. It was a very busy night, very busy early morning, I should say, going into this morning. And then sort of midday from 12 o'clock to about 2 o'clock, there was a sort of repeated, the air raid sirens go off. And what happens is we get a text that says, go near a shelter just in case, and then you hear the air raid sirens. When the air raid sirens go off, it's not all over the country, but those are pretty localized, which means you got to pay attention to them. That means it's coming into your neighborhood. So when that happened, we had to take cover. And what we learned, as Matt said, it wasn't just the Iranians who were firing missiles here, but it was a coordinated attack between Iran and Hezbollah just in this region. Now, expanding it beyond Israel, the Iranians had continued to try to attack all around the Gulf states. And again, a lot of those have been intercepted. But when it comes to the drones specifically, those have proven to be a bit of a challenge. And we've learned from our sources that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, had briefed Congress that this was going to be difficult for a couple of reasons. One is they flood the zone with these drones. The second thing is they're hard to intercept. The Israelis have the most advanced, arguably, the most advanced weapons defense system in the world, air defense system in the world. And we've seen it for ourselves. They're able to intercept the vast majority of the missiles that are coming in here from time to time. Not all of them, because they have fallen here in Tel Aviv, not far from here, as a matter of fact, and they fall into other areas in Israel, killing Israelis. Matt also talked about the air traffic that we see here. As we know, there are no commercial flights here. It's one of the reasons Americans are struggling to get out, not just from Israel, but from other Gulf states, 14 states, trying to get some help from the State Department. We've learned today that the U.S. military is even putting C-17s into the region to try to coordinate a little bit of help for Americans that want to get away from this region, because the Iranians aren't just targeting military bases and government buildings, et cetera, et cetera. They're going after commercial districts and high rises and resorts. And that is what's terrifying, not just Americans, but obviously the people who live in those countries as well. And as I speak to you, I can see just on the horizon, there's another aircraft that's coming in, which is going to cross us moments from now here in Tel Aviv. Guaranteed that's not a commercial aircraft, because there hasn't been a commercial aircraft here for the past 72 hours or so, since the 100 hours, I should say, since the conflict began. What we're seeing now are military aircraft. Some of them are cargo planes, some of them are refuelers, and we probably see, I don't know, half a dozen every hour coming in and out, not just landing in Israel, but crossing Israeli airspace.
Charlie D'Agata, we really appreciate all the incredible reporting you and your team are doing. Thank you and stay safe. At the first White House press briefing since the war began, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt sought to give more insight into the president's thinking.
The president was not going to be just another president on a very long list who sat back and stood by and passed the buck of this direct threat to the next administration. The president had a feeling, again, based on fact, that Iran was going to strike the United States, was going to strike our assets in the region.
CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now. And so, Nancy, we've gotten some mixed messaging from the administration about why this started, when it did. Where do we stand on those questions today?
Well, you heard the press secretary right there say, Lindsay, that the president had a feeling based on fact that the Iranians were going to strike the U.S. Or U.S. assets in the region. And so the time for the U.S. jointly with the Israelis to strike Iran was this weekend. We have also heard that that this was a big opportunity this weekend because so many Iranian leaders were together. You know, the message has evolved as the week has gone on. When it comes to the goals of this operation, the administration has been pretty consistent over the past couple of days, laying out 4 goals. 1, to destroy Iran's navy. 2, to destroy its ballistic missile program. 3, to ensure that Iran can never get a nuclear weapon. And then 4, to ensure that Iran cannot continue to be the largest state sponsor of terror in the world.
And at that press briefing, you asked Secretary Leavitt about efforts to get Americans in the region home. It was a very interesting interaction. What did she tell you?
Yeah, obviously, there have been a lot of complaints from people in the region saying that they are trying to reach this State Department hotline, trying to get information. They either can't get through, or until last night, they were simply getting a message telling them that they were on their own. And so the White House press secretary insisted to me today that those problems have been fixed. That's still not exactly what we're hearing from the region, but she says there is now an all-hands-on-deck operation working to bring Americans home if they need to come home. Take a listen to our exchange. Why wasn't there more of a focus on evacuation plans from the Middle East that could have been at least put in place, ready to go before the strikes this weekend?
Again, I just laid out for you that there have been plans in place and that the State Department has been very clear to the American people traveling within this region not to travel to these regions. We gave notices to leave immediately. There's a few thousand people who have requested assistance to come home in comparison to the millions who we understand are in the region. So we will help every single American who wants to come home.
She said, and State Department officials have said, that charter flights are being arranged to help bring Americans back to the U.S. in larger numbers. But when I asked her if those charter flights have started, how many have actually lifted off so far, she wouldn't commit to providing a number.
Yeah, much more to come on that in the show as well. I pressed a State Department spokesperson on the very same thing and got the same answer. Nancy Cordes, thank you.